What's going on Twitch and YouTube? Welcome to episode 36 of the U.S.S. CERRITOS tutorial. I'm Zero Leanne. I just want to thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 22-minute video. We're going to be primarily focusing on wrapping up the shuttle bay. We won't be getting everything done in today's episode, but this shuttle bay is so large that it's required me to break it down into multiple episodes. I can say that out of the entire interior portion of the tutorial, that I would say that hands down, more than likely, the shuttle bay is probably going to be the longest part of it. Only because of the amount of detailing that we're having to do. So without further ado and extending this thing out any more than it needs to, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Right now we're in the main corridor that's directly behind the shuttle bay. So we're going to take our first left and it'll bring us right into it. All right. So now we're in our shuttle bay. And we're going to be, before we move around too much, we're going to get a tiny bit of detail done in at our corners right here. Well, intersections where our corridors for our shuttle bay converge into the circular corridors. And I'm just cleaning up a little bit of detailing here to make everything match up. I need to get the blue concrete. All right, we're looking pretty good right now. I do still get asked every once in a while from time to time which blocks I'm using. And for the entirety of this build, if I can help it, we're using any of the concrete blocks to keep it simple. For the tan blocks, we're using the white terracotta. Um, but yeah, pretty much I like keeping it simple with the block palette. I've done enough of the ships on here. I think that the concrete just looks a little bit nicer and cleaner. Really like how these intersections corner off here. But I'm definitely liking my straightaway corridors way more than my circular ones or angled ones here. Um, I really want to get another pass at them, and I'm really going to try to do that before the end of this tutorial is over. But for whatever reason, if I don't manage to do it, then I'll probably end up panning back to the Cerritos at some point. But I feel like I'm not done with them. Long story short, and I really want to get the design right on them, so this way when I build Enterprise D, I can really nail the corridors on the Enterprise D. Because that was really a lot of the reason why I'm building this ship now. Um, for two main reasons, is that I had a ton of people ask me for the Cerritos and Enterprise D. And I felt like, this is knocking out two birds with one stone because they look similar enough that building this ship is really going to help me in getting ready to build the Enterprise D. And it's also giving the community the tutorial that they really want to see. And that's something I definitely want to keep going. Not necessarily thinking about what my next build's gonna be past the Enterprise D, but once I do start working on the Enterprise D, that's something I really want to start thinking about. And in the meantime, let me know what builds you want to see me tackle in the comments section. Doesn't even necessarily have to be a starship from Star Trek. It could be anything nerd related. But definitely love to hear from you, and even if it's just to drop by and say hey, or what you liked or disliked about the video or the build I'm working on. But we're just getting a little bit of ins and outs done here. You see I'm shaving, or I'm edging up the gray layer that's sitting right on top of the shuttle bay, just trying to make it the shape look a little bit nicer going on the sides here and get rid of those extra blocks, and having that line there, I think it makes it look a little bit nicer. Doesn't look as pixelated. This one right here, that block's been bugging me. We got to swap that out. And then this area in here, we're going to come back to that. Not today, but in one of the future episodes, we're going to be knocking that out. I actually was on Minecraft quite a bit this weekend, and I pretty much got, if not all of the shuttle bay completed. And I actually hit a break on engineering, and I banged all of that out. And really, one of the things that was hurting, well, it wasn't hurting me, but it was holding me up on engineering, because I was trying to figure out a way to have my turbo lifts going up into the saucer section. Um, or excuse me, from the bridge that come down into the lower point of the saucer section to where you can actually get up there. But the problem that I was really having is that the turbo lift and the main warp core were encompassing the same area. Now, this is something I'm going to show you what I did to get around it. I honestly thought that it was pretty slick what I ended up doing. And put it this way, it was not my ideal solution for it, but I think it was good enough that it's really going to help um, make the ship look really nice and clean. So we're back on the interior inside the shuttle bay, and you can see I'm just taking out the blocks going along the border here, and now we're going to swap them out with sea lanterns. And I'm just doing this along the back wall for right now. And then we're going to do another pass with half slabs. So we're taking the design cue that we did on the outside of the ship for lighting, and we're going to use it in the shuttle bay, because where we can, definitely want to hide the lights. It's going to make it look a little bit nicer. Because we really have our main shape to work with. You're not really going to see the shuttle bay deviate from the current shape that it is, but what we are going to be doing is all these little details that's going to take our pre-existing shape and make it look all that much better. We've got a ton of detailing that we're going to do on the floor. You see we've already edged up a lot of the walls here to help really transition this room into a fully um, formed shape. And I'm telling you, look up um, the main shuttle bay on the Enterprise D, and I promise you that you're going to notice some similarities between this shuttle bay and that one. The Cerritos, the shuttle bay I did for this ship is not nearly as big as the Enterprise D shuttle bay. And that's for two reasons. One, I just didn't have the room to build something of that scale on this size ship. And not only that, the Enterprise D has like 4 shuttle bays. And like its main shuttle bay alone is probably both of the Cerritos's 2 main shuttle bays combined. So at that point, you can justify having one that's super big. We got a little bit of lighting done there going along the lip. We can't obviously bring that all the way back, but you can see I'm just doing it off the cut line here. I don't know if this lighting is going to stay here in the roof. Doesn't look bad, but as you can see what I did on the other side, we can't bring this over all the way. I think we're only going to be able to go one more row, or nope, that was it. That was the last one. So everything after that, we're hitting the outside. Maybe what we can do is edge that up just a little bit more, maybe? I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of looks a little odd with just the sea lanterns sitting there on the corners each side, but it does really help to light this area up a lot more than it was. Because this is the thing too. You don't want to have a ton of sea lanterns inside your ship. You want a little bit of shadow, because think of it like this: shadow helps to bring out characteristics. Well, not characteristics. It helps to give your ship character. That's what I'm trying to say. And you don't want, at the same time, you don't want your ship to be super dark either, that you can't see anything. So it's really finding a balance of between the two of what looks good and what is just way too much. You see him taking out a cut here right out of the middle. I had actually intended this to be another source of lighting, but again, I can only go about halfway before hitting that point right there where we're building on the outside. So I think I'm going to deviate away from that. We're just going to leave that line alone because I was going to do something else with it, but I think I ultimately just end up filling that in. Now this back wall that we're on right now, this is where we're actually, in a little bit, we're going to be adding our, I guess, parking spots or parking garages for our shuttlecraft. We're going to start with this main middle one. I think what I end up on is 5 ports. Um, I wanted more than that, but the shape of this wall here really prevented me from doing anything more than 5. And I'll show you here as we go on in this episode, but basically as I started building out from the center here, as the slope began, I realized that I couldn't have a clean doorway, and that basically the more I went over to the left and the right, um, I started to build up going along that slope, the doorways started to look janky, and I really didn't care for that at all. I thought that it just looked tacky. I actually did build it out, but then I ended up going back and I deleted it because I hated how it looked so much that I didn't even include it in the tutorial. I was like, I'm not feeling this one bit. So um, we're just going to be writing out with at least 5 ports. But I think all things considered, the 5 ports is ample for helping to convey what we're trying to convey with this. We don't need a ton of uh, ports just to take up the space and make the thing look OP. I think anything more than 5 at this point, I mean, we're just taking up space. That's really what it's coming down to. And to be honest with you, we could honestly almost say that there's 3 because I'm really thinking about making the two ends of those reserved for cargo. But I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided if I was going to make those areas for cargo or if I was going to make them a different parking spot for the shuttlecraft. If I do that, then I have to build an additional cargo room. So I'm trying to figure some of that out. I kind of feel like maybe the cargo room should be in the shuttle bay. It makes the most sense. Um, but let me know what your thoughts are. You see, just like that, we've got 3 ports. That looks pretty good. We're going to do, just going along this lip here, we're going to swap that out to a darker gray. Then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And see, even that one there, it starts to slope. If I go anything more than that, then we've got at least 2 cuts in our doorway. And that's really what was messing it up for me, doing anything more going along the sides here. So I just had the 3 here in the middle. I'm going to wall them off so they'll have their own port. But then on the end here, along this side, is where I put the last one here. I actually take off a row so I have more wall to work with. And that's basically just what I do to solve the problem, figure out a way around it, to still do what you want to do based off the design that you have. Because that was the other thing too. I even thought about it. I was like, well, I could just make this back wall flat, but then it's going to take out all this beautiful curvature that we've spent all this time building and manipulating and incorporating into the build. And this same curvature is something that you do see in the main shuttle bay of the Enterprise D, and that was something. And even going along the roof here, like that curve, that cut, that's right out of the Enterprise D. And adding in these details is really what's going to help make people, when they go on this thing, if they've seen that ship, they'll be like, man, like that looks like the Enterprise D. That's what you want out of this thing. You want it to look like the Enterprise D in this regard, because it comes from the same era. And you really think about it, they use the same parts over and over again in Star Trek. They've been doing it since the shows come out. And I feel like we'll be doing this again for other builds, because we're lucky in the sense that we've got the show where the Cerritos has been showcased in for at least 1 season. So we've got 1 season's worth so far of content that we can try to mine through to get some of the interior shots that we need. Everything else we'll just use Enterprise D, and I don't think it'll look bad. Had to make some adjustments here and there. Shuttle Bay is a prime example of doing that. We used what we could, the one screenshot, which pretty much fleshed out the main entryway point to go from the shuttle bay into the ship. But everything else that you're seeing here is primarily Enterprise D. And these pillars that I'm building down from the roof, the reason I'm doing that is to gauge myself because I'm cheating right now. I'm getting ready to cheat because I don't want to use a pixel circle generator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pre-existing cut that we have directly above us, and now I'm going to add it directly below us because I want to add some detailing into our floor here. We have this beautiful blue floor, but it looks very plain right now, and I feel like we can do a little bit more really to bring this room to life. One of the ways that we can do that is by doing some smart detailing on our floor. And what I'm going to use to influence me for the floor is looking at aircraft carriers. And when you look at aircraft carriers on their main deck, it's basically like an airport runway. And an airport runway is just pretty much like a fancy way of saying like it's a plane road. No pun intended, but like that's literally what it is. It's a road that you have that you ride on a plane with. And this would be the same thing, but we're applying it to a shuttle. So we need to make guidelines from where you come in, your main two shuttle bay doors, to our parking spots. So that's really what we're going to be doing here. And this circle, or at least this part of the oval that or circle that we're making, is going to help us to do that a little bit, at least on this side of it. And I think we'll even go back and add in some more color too to help bring this thing to life a little bit more. Definitely want to keep the blue because I think the blue looks great, but we can throw in some yellows. That just feels appropriate. We can throw in some dark grays. We can even throw in I don't know if black, if I want to go with black, but I think like a dark, like light gray, dark gray. These are some colors that we can use. Now we don't need these pillars anymore. We can just get rid of them. So I just showed you an easy way to cheat and use the pre-existing lines that you already have. Something I always try to do when I'm building my ships to work smarter and not harder. And somebody else maybe didn't have as much experience building a ship. Maybe they just go back to the pixel circle generator, and you definitely could. But this method right here definitely saves you the trouble from having to do that. And we've already got the circle there, so why make it harder at that point? So the thing we're going to do here, I don't know if we're going to do everything past this line, going to the back wall to the right, but we're at least going to go along with the cut line. We're going to do a little bit of exploratory building here to come up with the detailing that we want to do. So I'm not exactly sure how I want to detail the floor in here. And really the best way to go about doing that when you're not exactly sure is just to be very conservative about it and do it little by little, you know? So right now we're just going to go along the cut line, see how that accent works. After I finish this side, I'm going to zoom out, take a look at it, and try to figure out if I want to make this whole back area this color or if I want to take it and use, which I think it looks like a darker shade of gray, but that's actually cyan terracotta, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to bring this yellow line back the doorway to help accentuate that a little bit more. I don't like that. I think I'm just going to have that yellow line going all the way back. Having it cut at that angle just looks kind of funky to me. You see, that doesn't look bad. Now we'll bring our gray line, repeat the same process. And I don't think we're going to keep that cyan and blue stripe in the middle, at least in this room. I don't think that it's working with the current color palette, and more than likely I'm going to end up switching that out. In fact, we'll switch that to yellow, and this one as well. That looks so much better now. Maybe even line it off. That doesn't look bad. And see, just having that alone, I mean, adds a whole nother level of detail in this room. We're not even done with the floor yet. So now we're going to continue along the wall here, our gray. You can see I'm just going with a cut. And I'm going to go back a row with the yellow. So far, so good. I like it. So we're going to do the same thing the other side. And everything you see, what I'm doing right now, I'm literally just winging this. I'm seeing how it looks. I have an idea in my head that, well, maybe some areas, I can highlight with this combination of the gray and yellow pinstripe. This is something that I do in all of my ships. I use this pinstripe in different areas on both the inside and outside to really help detail it and bring it to life just a little bit more. All right, so we need red concrete. We're going to be moseying over to the entry waypoints here in just a moment. I gotta be honest with you, I'm actually very surprised with how well the shuttle bay came out. And since I just actually finished it this past weekend, I haven't had any finished screenshots of it. But anybody that has checked my YouTube channel in the last 24 hours has probably noticed that the episodes where with the shuttle bay, I've updated the thumbnail of the completed shuttle bay in those thumbnails for those videos, as well as this one. So you first click on this video, that picture that you saw is the finished shuttle bay. And we're actually almost there. We're really getting close to being complete at this point. Yeah, we've still got to build out the rooms here for our shuttle bay control room, but I'm not necessarily counting that as the construction of the shuttle bay itself, since it's technically a different area of the ship. I'm just throwing those sea lanterns up there temporarily. I'm not necessarily going to keep them there. I think I just want some more lighting there in the middle, and I need to figure out a way to cover that up so we can have that same area lit. Some of these sea lanterns, we can get rid of them. The ones in the floor here, we can get rid of these now. We're at a point where we've got enough sea lanterns that getting rid of these miscellaneous ones is not going to darken up the room too much. But by doing this, it's really going to help me to see where I need to add light. So we're actually in pretty good shape right now. But yeah, we're not doing too bad. I think that's actually going to wrap us up today. We shot through that video faster than I thought that we were going to. But there's still more to come this week. We've got more work to do on the interior of the shuttle bay as well as the rest of the ship. I do apologize again for the length of at least the shuttle bay portion, but this room is so big that it takes a little bit more time and there's no other way to go about it. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank everybody again for tuning into today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, if you could please help me out and hit that like and subscribe button. I definitely appreciate it. New subscribers also don't forget to hit notifications on so you always get notified when those new videos drop. Speaking of new videos, don't forget you can always catch my live streams at twitch.tv/ZeroElite. Don't forget to follow me there. You can always catch my new live streams dropping Sundays through Thursday nights, typically between 9 and 10 p.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget to follow me at youtube.com/C/ZeroElite. And you can always catch my new Starship Evo videos dropping on Mondays and my new Minecraft videos dropping Tuesdays through Fridays. Those videos on YouTube drop at 10 a.m. Eastern. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you on the next episode.